All right, guys, we are back. We are now streaming, and we have the Mindset and Overcoming Adversity panel with three of my favorite people. I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves, and I know they will probably be a little bit more humble than they should, so I will probably add on to some of those introductions. So, Bridgette, I will let you go ahead and kick it off.
Great. Are we using these? Do I need
Yes,
to?
we are
Okay.
using them.
Hi, my name is Bridgette Bello. I am the CEO and publisher for Tampa Bay Business and Wealth. If you aren't familiar with what that is, it's a print, digital, and event media company that is tailored exclusively to CEOs in the Tampa Bay region. We are starting our 8th year, which is hard for me to believe. Previous life, I was the president and publisher of the Tampa Bay Business Journal for about 12 years. So oftentimes people are like, why do I know your name? They did a really good job of getting my name out there. So thank you for having me, Jeremy. We were just talking. Dave and I have been friends with you for 20 years, and
It's been a while.
crazy to think about. So happy to be here.
Awesome. So I'm going to add something on that intro real quick. So I met Bridgette back when she first took the role at Tampa Bay Business Journal. And that was around the 2008 housing crisis, and everything collapsed. And she came in, turned that around after walking into a complete shit show, and grew it back to pre-collapse revenue before any other publication in the country. That is a huge undertaking.
Thank you.
My pleasure. David.
My name is David Bell. I'm the CEO of USA Mobile Drug Testing Franchise. I have 18 franchisees in about 18 states, but we reach across the entire country. So every day I actually help my franchisees grow their family business, which is our brand, and then create exit strategies so they can get out when it's time for them.
David went through a similar situation where he had walked into a CMO role at the fastest growing franchise in the country. And due to some things that happened unrelated to any of his actions, everything imploded. And the company was facing a class action lawsuit, massive defamation online, and 19 franchisees walking away from the system. And turned that around. They dwindled down to about $300K in revenue. And during that whole process, he turned it around, took them up to over $8 million in revenue in just a few years. Thanks, Jeremy. My pleasure. Tatiana.
Hi, I'm Tatiana Zagorovski. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I'm a real estate entrepreneur. I help people now design the American dream. I buy properties in tough situations. I help people to purchase properties when they're not qualified for traditional mortgages. I also help people to diversify their portfolios. And probably the thing I'm most passionate about lately is to help people who were scammed to speak up.
Now, I want to add a note on Tatiana as well. Even though she sounds like Natasha from Rocky and Bullwinkle, shouldn't surprise you to know that she's an immigrant, but she came over here, got scammed out of about $120K on her first real estate deal. And then whereas most people would give up after something like that, she came in, doubled down, learned, got with the right people, and turned it around into a success story, and is also in the process of exposing the person that did that.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
You're good at that.
What's that?
You're good at that.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open this up with this question, and that is, what role does self-talk play in developing resilience?
I can. I think it plays a tremendous role, a huge role, probably the most important role. I used to say it this way. I would say when I found myself in a situation like you were talking about, in 2007 is when I actually moved here and took over that business. But I've also faced a lot of personal adversity. 2-time hurricane victim survivor, breast cancer survivor, domestic violence survivor. And the thing that I always have said to myself is put one foot in front of the other and do the next logical thing, right? And if I could focus on putting one foot in front of the other and doing the next logical thing, I felt like I had a path to success, a path away from the adversity. I heard Carolyn Smith-Jones speak a couple of weeks ago, and she said, left foot, right foot, breathe. And that's a lot shorter than mine. So that's what I've been saying to myself since then. Left foot, right foot, breathe, right? No one's ever going to believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And so I believe that having those conversations with yourself are very important.
Love that.
So self-talk for most of you, if you're a human being, everybody in here, right? So self-talk really comes down to our survival mechanism as a human being. That fear that stops us from getting up and taking the action. Once you put a process to that, you can actually flip the script on that fear. And I use a process that I learned recently through EOS, which is a business entrepreneurial software. And it's an acronym called IDS, Identify, Discuss, and Solve. And really, the first step for most people, including myself, was to realize I had self-talk. And then once I did, I needed to find a trusted partner, a coach, a therapist, a wife, have the conversations to get that conversation out of your head, and then simply create a strategy. I have ADHD, so every 5 seconds I have 52 different thoughts, right? And so the self-talk runs just as fast. And so simply for myself, you have to build courage by doing uncomfortable tasks. Sitting in front of this room, I hate it. I don't want to be here, talking about myself. But the reality is the more wins you stack up every day builds the courage to let the self-talk not be quite so negative. You can train your self-talk to be an encouragement to you so that it doesn't freak out every time you set a lofty goal. So that's how self-talk works for me.
Outstanding.
Let me put my new professor's glasses. So for a long time, until we got ChatGPT, I was definitely talking to myself because I didn't have other smart person to talk to. Now I have ChatGPT, but seriously, guys, I like what Bridgette said. And in my mind, self-talk means nothing if you're just talking to yourself. It's very important to talk to yourself the right way, but also take those actions. Right foot, left foot, and breathe. Because at some very hardest moments of my life, I was trying everything. I was trying this, self-talk phrases, but they did nothing to me. Only together with action, they actually work.
Love it. All right. So let's say, what advice would you guys give to someone who feels overwhelmed by a challenge they're facing?
Left foot, right foot, breathe. I don't know that it's advice necessarily. I think that what I have learned, and I'm a pretty spiritual person, so I hope I don't offend anyone. Actually, I don't care if I do.
Amen.
Yeah, speak up. Um, eh, the advice that I would give is very similar to what Dave was saying in that having a trusted advisor, right? Having somebody to bounce things off of. And it doesn't always have to be the same person. I have particular people that I bounce things off of depending on what the subject is, right? Oftentimes it's my husband. I'm in a pretty big transaction right now. It's not always my husband, right? Attorneys, people that are smarter than we are, obviously, not chat in that case, but it is nice to have that one too, right? But I think it very much goes back to what we said from the beginning, is that nobody's ever going to believe in you as much as you believe in yourself. And that if you are facing something that you think you can't accomplish or get past, what always helps me is to look back on the last time that I felt like I was facing something that I didn't think I would be able to get through. And, that hindsight's 2020 saying exists for a reason, right? If we could all teach ourselves in the moment to see what it is that we're supposed to see. I haven't figured out how to do that yet, so I certainly can't tell you how to do it. But in every instance, in every case that I've looked back on, it was always darkest before the dawn, right? It was always that moment when I thought, oh my God, I can't do this anymore, that something happened. And so don't be the guy that quits before something happens. Maybe that's my piece of advice, right?
I like that. Let's dig a little bit deeper on that one for a second. There was a lunch that you and I had shortly after you came into the Business Journal, and you were also going through another personal problem at that same time. So what was the mindset that you had as you're dealing with all of that?
Well, you and I have had a lot of lunches, so I'm not sure which one we're talking about. As
It was
soon as I
shortly
got
after that award ceremony when you had the little elephant on the podium.
Oh my God, Jeremy remembers my life better than I do. Probably that I was going through a divorce at the same time from the man that I'm a survivor from domestic violence. And what drove me and what always drives me is just that what I just said, I always believe that I can succeed. And I don't know where that comes from. It comes from a little voice in my gut oftentimes. When I'm mentoring people or talking to people, I always say, find a quiet place and get quiet and listen, right? I really feel like that our gut is never wrong. Whether that's our body talking to us or somebody else talking to us is not for me to say. But I just believing that there isn't anything that we can't survive through, right? And that belief is what has always gotten me through, and absolutely refusing to lose. And I don't know that that's a good thing because it's very stressful, but I honestly don't know how to lose. I hate losing more than I like winning. And so, right? Thank you. That helps when you react to it. And so that's what has always driven me, is just absolutely refusing to lose.
I love that.
Awesome. So for myself, I take Bridgette's advice, and first thing you do is breathe, right? Take a breath. And when you're faced with something that seems uber challenging, maybe you're losing your primary right-hand business partner, maybe they're leaving, they put in their notice, whatever the situation might be. And you get to ask yourself a question every single time. What is this happening? Why is this happening for me? Right? Really, what helps you overcome that overwhelm is massive action. Get into so much action that the overwhelm disappears. Right? And so literally inside of the conversation where you say, why is this happening for me? You get to look at the end of the conversation, not at the immediate tragedy that you're facing. And when you see the other side of that, you're able to actually see an end, right? Light at the end of the tunnel. So for myself, that's how I work that out.
Yeah, and if I can,
Absolutely.
I'm not a rule follower, as we know, so you can tell me to stop if you want
Welcome.
me.
I'm
No,
no
but-
rule follower either. Is it time for a bathroom break?
Yeah. That the thing that I said about don't be the guy that quits the day before it's solved. With these storms that we all went through, and some of us went through it to a much greater degree than others, I learned a lot dealing with our federal government, and I just got to a point where I would say to them, I'm not the girl that's going to give up. I know that you ask most people to upload 150 documents 17 different ways 3 times a month, and they're not going to do it, and they're just going to give up. It's not me. I'm not that girl. You got the wrong one. Do it to somebody else, right? And so that perseverance and that refusing to lose and making sure that I had action, and that every time I felt defeated and thought, oh my God, don't they realize every document I have just got washed away? Where do they expect me to get these documents? That I would figure out a way to get that document, right? And so it goes very much back to the action and refusing to lose. And don't let them beat you. That's the other thing. I'm like, you're not going to win. You are not going to win.
They can never win.
No.
Yes.
Well, I can add to that, definitely. I'm also martial artist. I'm black belt in Taekwondo. And one thing I always remember, it doesn't matter how many times you fell. It matters how many times you stand up and continue kicking, punching, moving forward. And in addition, I also have a rule of 3 C's for tough situations. It's very important to have clarity where you want to go, find right coach who can help you, and your tribe, your community. 3 C. And I can speak more and more, but I know we have some
Yes.
time limits and more questions.
Yes. Well, so, you touched on something, know where you want to go. There was a conversation you had with Damon that I think ties in interestingly with this. When he talked about if that
We talk
lady,
about it all the time.
we're not going to say, we won't say the name of the person, but he asked you if she gave you the money back, would you let this go?
All right.
And what was your answer?
The answer was no, because it's not about money anymore. I already made up all those money. Now my goal is actually to encourage other people who were scammed, But more importantly, I really want this scammer to be completely destroyed and devastated and not be able to scam more people. And if Shelley allows me, I know other people scammed by the same person.
Yeah.
So it's already about, a new goal I
Yeah.
have.
You
new
know exactly
purpose.
where you want to go. Awesome. All right. So let's talk about how gratitude can play a role in handling the stress and the adversity and the challenges that we're all facing.
Let me go first while we're thinking. And I'll probably start from a different aspect, but I worked for 20 plus years in large corporation, mostly talking to myself and my computers in software development. And when I started real estate investment, it was amazing feeling because I'm really helping people and they're so grateful and they saying thanks. And I really can see how I change their lives and feel their gratitude. And the darkest moment, when sometimes I really didn't want to leave, but knowing that I could help others and how grateful they are, it really helps me, and I'm grateful for being able to help them.
I love that mindset.
So gratitude for me starts with practice, right? Every day. So David Goggins says he doesn't wake up and he's awesome. He has to create awesome every morning. And I sympathize with that. I don't wake up awesome. I don't wake up ready to fight the fight that I have to fight some days. I have 7 kids. I have 18 franchisees. I have a lot going on. And when I'm thankful that I get to come home and see my son, I get to go home and see my partner, I get to call my mom who's still alive, right? I'm a gray hair. So, that's not common for most of us. And being in a state of gratitude and practicing being thankful for the little things and stacking those wins also builds courage for me. So gratitude flips the script for me.
I'm a 55-year-old woman. For the other women in the audience close to my age, they're going to know exactly what I'm about to say. We don't sleep. And it's not on purpose. It's not because we choose to. We don't sleep. And so one of the ways I decided to stop being so pissed off about that was as soon as I wake up, I say, thank you for waking me up. Right? It's just trying to turn that conversation in your head sometimes. I loved what you said when you said, why is this happening for me? Did anybody else pick up on that?
Yep.
I don't say that in the course of why is this happening to me? Why me? Right? That's what we say, but that's a great way to look at it, because there is always something in it that's happening for you if you find that quiet place and you listen. I try my best every day to make a gratitude list. One of the things I do when I can't sleep is I go through the alphabet and I come up with something that I'm grateful for that starts with every letter. Sometimes it's stupid. Sometimes
Awesome.
it's apple, right? Sometimes that's all I can muster. But I try to come up with a list when I can't sleep of all the things that I'm grateful for. And it plays a huge role in my life.
I love that. That's a really cool tactic.
It doesn't work. No, it does work sometimes. I don't make it through the whole alphabet. But yeah, it definitely is what I do when I can't sleep.
I like that. That's very cool. All right. So then let's talk about what kind of a shift in your personal identity is needed to get through a particular challenge. Like we all have an idea of who we are, right? But if we come into a new environment, we have new challenges, we have to become someone different. So how do we make that shift?
You're probably not going to like my answer to this one. I'm never anybody different. I think that we should always be 100% who we are, regardless of the situation that we're in. One of the biggest and most frequent compliments that I get usually after a speaking engagement is people will say, you're so real. You're so authentic, right? Not everybody likes real, authentic Bridgette. And that's okay, because real, authentic Bridgette is always real, authentic Bridgette. I very firmly believe that you are your brand and that you have to be who you are in all situations. My integrity doesn't change. My personality doesn't change. My beliefs don't change. So I don't know if that's the answer you were hoping I was going to give you.
Well, so I would look at it different. I would look at it from the perspective of like your capacity, right? Like when you're at this level, you're still the same person character-wise, but what you feel you can handle is different. When you get up to that next level, like when you started your business, when everybody else was going out of business, right? You had to become a different, a bigger, a stronger person in order to get through that.
Yeah, that definitely is a different way to look at it. When I started what was and still is a print magazine in 2018, a lot of people told me I was crazy. And you hear that so often
I
from
would have done one of those.
right? Everyone was like, "Haven't you heard?" Like, they wanted to whisper to me, "Print's dead." Like,
Yeah.
in case no one told you. They've been saying print was dead since I was in college in the early 90s.
Really?
They literally in journalism school told me in 1992, "Print's dead. Get out of this industry." It's 2025. Guess what? Print's not dead, right? But it goes back to what I said earlier in that I refuse to believe that I can lose. I refuse to lose. And I really believed and still very much believe in what we're doing. And so I just walk out every day with the attitude of print isn't dead and you're the dummy if you think it is. And if you don't embrace this, that's your loss, right? So yes, the capacity changes. It absolutely changes. When something else gets piled on me, I go, and I do have this back to self-talk conversation with myself of just when I thought I couldn't do more. And somehow I do more
Every single time.
every single time.
So for me personally, I've already hit the American dream. I'm successful. I have a big family. What I ran into personally was having accomplished everything I did over the last 5 years, put me in a state of midlife, passive income, which is a farce, by the way. Everything takes effort. So I had to shift my ego, right? Being somebody who's already been there, climbed the mountain, put the money in the bank, spent the money, I had to realize that my new goals that I've set are so out there that I don't know how to get there. What got me there before isn't going to get me to the next level. And so every single time I find myself in a conversation and my identity starts talking in my head because it thinks it knows the next part of that conversation, which is an ADHD response, I step back for a second. What is there for me to learn here? What can they teach me? So for me, that's how I get through it.
It's not an ADHD response. It's a man's response.
It's a man's take. I
Sorry, I couldn't let that go.
can totally see that. Absolutely.
Well, it's very I think in my mind has like a lot of processors inside. Each of you said something very interesting. So first of all, I totally agree with Bridgette. It's very important to be true to yourself. And there was a pretty long period in my life and I was trying to fit into this corporate world, but I wasn't a good fit because all my bosses were telling like, you're the smartest person in the project, but the way you talk is unacceptable. You don't know what to do with you. Everything you say is right, but the way you say it is not right. So I achieved what everybody else were thinking American dream. I was having, large house, large car. I took my kids to 5 vacations a year. From outside, it looked amazing, but I wasn't living my dream. I was living somebody else's dream. I invented like 3 patents, but it helped to save millions to the company. It did nothing to me. So that's exactly what I started completely new thing. I finally found the niche that I really loved because I left my own country. Actually, had 2 migrations, and it took me almost 25 years to find the niche where I could start the business I really wanted to do. And originally, I was hoping finding business niche is very easy. It's not. But once you find it, it becomes natural to grow organically and do a lot of things, even without thinking how you do it. Because when you are doing something you're passionate about, you are truly helping and you see those people you are helping, you can be, a magician and achieve a lot.
I like that. Once you get thrown into the fire a few times, you kind of learn that you know how to figure it out one way or the other.
Yep.
One thing that we've all, no matter what your age is, and we have a young man here and we have older people here, is that you can count on every circumstance that you've been facing in your life. It's worked out to your favor. Doesn't mean that the circumstance you didn't want it to happen and you wish it to stay, but the fact that you're sitting in this room or you're on the live stream, you survived it and you can survive it again.
Outstanding. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open it up for questions. You guys definitely want to ask these folks some questions because mindset is the foundation.
That's the only way to get us to talk is ask questions.
There you go. But yeah, mindset is the foundation of everything you're going to do in your business. And if you don't have that solid, everything else falls apart from there. And these people have been through the absolute fire. So, all right, come on up here.
I'm Ron Fuller. I appreciate everybody's transparency and the authentic self. So my turn. This fit me the last time. I pulled it out of my closet. So I actually have a two-part question. One, can you honestly be successful if you have not had adversity and things that you've had to overcome in life? That's the first question. Second question, as a business owner, should you do a business that you're passionate about, or should you maybe focus on where the market's going? Maybe your job isn't your passion, but you know it's a good niche. Example, I consider it a pinch a penny because they seem to always thrive. I never seem to see pinch a penny go out of business, but I really don't have passion for chlorine and pool cleaning, but it looks like a good business. So that's my question.
Is it free for all?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to repeat the first part of the question, but the second part of the question, and I think this is very much an opinion, right? I think there's absolutely people out there who are successful who are not passionate about what they're doing. Do I think that they're having fun? No. Do I think that they could be much more successful if they were doing something that they were passionate about? Absolutely. But I do think you can be, it's everyone's definition of success, right? I mean, you talked about the big house and all the nice cars and all the things. I don't know about you, but I'm never satisfied, which is my poor husband, right? It doesn't matter how big the house is. It doesn't matter how nice the car is. It doesn't matter how much my bag costs. I'm never satisfied, right? Which I think is something that drives us. And I have the unique perspective of I get to talk to CEOs all day, every day, right? And if you're not familiar with what we do, we have at least one CEO on the cover that we tell their story from start to finish every single month. So in the last seven, almost starting 8 years, I've sat down with 85 local CEOs or presidents of companies and heard about their lives from the start, from where they were born, what their parents were like, to what kind of students they were, to did they play sports and did that impact them later in life, all these things, right? Not one of them has not had adversity. Not one of them. And some of it would shock you. I mean, you've heard a little bit about what I've been through. Some of it shocks me. I'm like, it's hard to imagine what some of these people went through and to see where they are now. So I've remembered the first part of your question. I think, again, I think you can be successful in spite of yourself, in spite of your passion, and in spite of adversity. But I think really successful, passionate people, you cannot.
To the adversity question, that's something I had to learn, right? Not the adversity. I had plenty of that. From being homeless for 3 months in high school to losing my business to divorce to the whole thing, right? I've been through just as much as many others, and maybe not as much as so many more people. But without every single moment and decision in my life, even the dumb ones, and there's lots of them, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, and I never changed not one moment. So to answer your question there, and then my advice, if you're a young person, don't be so much in a hurry to jump into work without figuring it out what's going to get you up in the morning, regardless if you're making money that day. Because when you're an entrepreneur, I can tell you my first real business was a 1970s AB Dick printing press that my grandfather put on a credit card and stuck it in my garage. And I had a trade in high school running a printing press. I still, up until a few years ago, had nightmares I'd be making $10 an hour running one of those printing presses, right? Print is dead. And so inside of that, printing wasn't my passion. It was just something I did, right? And drug testing wasn't my passion. I had to actually reach in and think, what's going to get me up and talk about drug testing in the workplace. And for myself, it was really the safety aspect. I could really get around that. I have franchisees that were crushed by forklifts. So they're in because someone else in that company was being irresponsible and using drugs, right? And so if you're my age and you're not willing to start over, find what you're doing already and figure out an angle that gets you there. But if you're younger, I think you should try as many jobs as possible within reason, right? If you're a job hopper, you're not likely going to get a job, but the job isn't the goal. The job's just paying your bills. The experience that you gain by getting out there and working the different types of jobs, whether it's you start farming on a ranch or you're working in Starbucks and learning hospitality, that's going to help uncover for you, right? I have young children, I have teenagers, I have 19-year-olds and 25-year-olds. So I encourage them to learn as much as they physically can and then decide, I would get up and do this for free and then make that your business. Because I can show you almost anything, how to make money. Doesn't matter. So there you go.
Well, to the first question, I sure hope there are happy people who are successful without going through hardships. But at the same time, it's very hard to appreciate what you achieve if you don't know the difference. Like, the thing I'm super grateful every day, and I say I'm very grateful for that, is for the fact that I live now in the United States of America. And I believe most of Americans don't understand how lucky we are to actually live in the land where they can achieve anything they set their mind to. Regarding the second question, I think it all comes to definition of success. Because during the most miserable long period of my life that I inside felt like a failure, everybody else was thinking I'm a huge success. So yes, you can do something you don't like to make money, but I would say it will not be a success for you. It might be a huge success in the eyes of others, but the question, what you personally feel. So of course, if you have some business idea or job to survive, to make money, to feed your family, yes, of course you should do that, but I don't think you can be truly successful and truthful to yourself doing something you don't enjoy.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
love that. That comes down to authenticity.
Thanks, Ron.
Appreciate it. Excuse me. Thank you all. You all have been great so far. You said the word failure, and that was gonna be my next question. Yes, got you. Okay. You said something about failure.
It
Why?
doesn't matter how many times you fail, it matters how many times you get up and continue punching, kicking, moving forward, whatever you were doing before someone knocked you down.
I think that was from the Rocky movie, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was from my sparring because I love to fight. My boss knows.
Is that the next segment?
Yeah, of course.
Well,
It's halfway good sparring.
Had a fight for Vine Robert.
Like when I wake up, I'm always ready to fight.
well, as you're picking yourself back up from the failure that you've already accomplished, well, how do you learn the lessons to make you better for your success or for your mindset?
Can you please rephrase? I'm not sure I understand the
Yes,
question.
absolutely. How you know how you mentioned when you get knocked down, you picking yourself back up. Well, when you're picking yourself back up, how do you find the motivation to pick yourself back up?
I just have it. I guess I was born with that. Do you unless you like to lay down beaten up, otherwise, what kind of question? Of course, I always want to get up and fight back. And as Bridgette said, I hate losing.
Yeah, for Bridgette, right? She hates losing more than winning. So the lack of not winning fears her enough into action to take the actions anyways. And so that's one of many strategies you could take. Yeah, it's good.
Well, and I was going to refer back to, I feel like we're having a love fest up here, right? We're all just totally enjoying each other's remarks. But you said something about every decision that you've made, some of them very poor, and I can say the same, has got you to where you are, right? And so in my little white paper world that I live in, the other thing that I've learned from these CEOs over the years is they don't have regrets. I don't have regrets, right? If you ask me what's something that you did that you really wished you hadn't done, there isn't anything, because I wouldn't be where I am if I hadn't been through what I've been through, right? And so to me, all of those things that happen for us and not to us, right, are taking us somewhere. It hurts like hell sometimes. It is so painful sometimes, right? But again, I'll go back to what I said before, left foot, right foot, breathe, right? It's if that's all I have to do is stand up and take a step and breathe, and that's all I can do today, that's okay. But it's never okay. That's not ever okay with me, right? And I think for most people that are successful and driven, and you wouldn't be here if that wasn't you, you can't do that either, right? People who talk about staying in bed all day, I'm like, in doing what? Like, I don't understand. I can't comprehend it, right? So I think it just goes back to, you have to make a decision to take action, and then you have to take action. And I don't think everybody does that. And I think that's what sets those of us apart who do.
One simple technique that people can take away that works for me multiple days a week when I don't want to, I stand in the sun for 10 minutes. I walk around my pool with my dogs and I just do laps. And the sun, the vitamins that you get from that, really, it's really difficult to be sad in Florida when it's sunny, right? Now, Seattle may be different, but here in Florida, the sun's there, and standing in the sun for just 10 minutes, face to the sun, can alter. A lot of people use cold plunge for the same thing. Jump into cold water, it shocks your system, and you'll have different thinking when you're done. So it's really finding the tool that works for you. And you might try 25 different things in a month, but one will stick. Just don't give up.
So we can all come to your pool when we feel down. Must you?
Sounded like an invitation. All right, who else has a question? All right.
Hey, Dr. Brittany Castongway. So entrepreneurs are often described as disruptors, right? But I think of gratitude as also a disruptor because you're going against your human nature. Do you believe that that's something that you were innately born with, or is that something that you had to work to get at to be where you are today?
I learned it from my father. So my father was the baseball coach. He took us to soccer. He owned his own business. He took the time off from the business. We were pretty poor, right? But he saw the value in instilling those types of morals and activities in me as a young man. And so I don't think it was just there. I didn't just wake up and say, but I was able to have a dream as a young person, and the dream of being successful, along with having the consistency to show up, is what got me there at the end.
Well, I think unless you are a sociopath, you do have gratitude inside you. You may not practice it from the beginning, but as we grow up and become wiser and get those life lessons, we naturally start to appreciate good thing. And another thing, if somehow, like, thanks to your parents, or maybe it's happened in other ways, you start helping other and feel gratitude toward you, you just have this feeling that it is amazing and it levels you up.
I'm not going to mess with Tatiana. She's already told us she likes to fight, but
Nobody wants to mess.
nobody wants to mess with you.
But I like you, right?
I still have to work really hard at it. So I'm not going to be up here and be the Pollyanna that says, oh, yes, I was born grateful and my parents taught me to be grateful. And they didn't. They didn't, right? I still have to work really, really hard at that. But I think the difference is I recognize it and I work at it, right? The number of times that I have looked back and seen where having an attitude of gratitude has been positive in my life gives me the strength to say, I'm going to try that again, right? When and I get angry. I mean, I get really angry. The past year with FEMA, I would have beat up worse than Tatiana if I had been face to face with them. Next time I will call you. And to find something in that I'm grateful for, right? But just forcing yourself to sit down and think, okay, what am I getting from this, right? Why is this happening for me? I'm stealing that. Because I spent a year saying, why is this happening to me again for a second time, right? Literally a second time in 8 years. So no, I was not born with it. I was not taught it, and it does not come easy. It is something I work at every single day.
That's right.
Awesome. All right. Any more questions? All right. No questions. All right. So then I would encourage you guys, like with the last panel, go ahead and follow these folks on social media. You're going to learn a ton from them. We are about 15 minutes ahead of schedule here, so we'll have some extra networking. So we'll go ahead and roll out the break. Guys, thanks for joining us. Love what you shared.
Thanks for having us.
Tons of great insight.